Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today, I've got my guest, Sam Chason, who is the founder and CEO of Storage Scholars. So excited to be jumping in, having some conversation about, this business, about, just this general crazy journey of entrepreneurship and all the fun stuff that comes along with it. So, Sam, I just want to say first and foremost, thank you for taking some time and being here, being willing to share with us today. Let's start with a little bit of background. Give us the quick overview of kind of who you are. Give us that context first, and then tell us a little bit about what Storage Scholars is, and then we'll dive into a few questions from there.
For sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to have Texas and Central Texas be my new home. It's been here for about 2.5 years now. But where it all started was actually we grew up in Mount Kisco, New York, about 45 minutes outside of New York City in Westchester County. I am the youngest of three. Older sister lives in New York. Older brother actually is like our fractional CTO. He lives in Philly. And then I'm the son of two high school public teachers up in New York as well. So education was definitely highly valued. And the storage college, right? It was kind of the natural culmination of the just like entrepreneurial things I did from age 6 all the way up into 18, where it was like lemonade stand, selling candy, lawn mowing business, selling and flipping lawnmowers, ATVs, cars, dirt bikes, into college, starting a moving company. So storage college actually started my freshman year in October out of my dorm room, and I had two international homemates. One was from China, one was from Ethiopia, and they both stereotypically would bring their two big check bags overseas on their flight. They'd buy a bunch of other stuff in the US, like a mattress topper or a bike. And they looked at me like, Sam, you're kind of like our resident American friend. Like, what do we do with this stuff? It's like, I have no freaking idea. So talked to some other people at the time, thought there was no one else doing this on campus. In reality, there was probably 10 competitors because where I went, Wake Forest was ideally, now looking at it, like probably one of the top 10 or 20 best markets for a service kind of like this. And I'll explain why. But yeah, I printed out some flyers, kept it pretty simple, realized that my target market was freshmen on campus. So just went door to door and talked to every single freshman, was very quickly labeled the storage kid, for better or worse. Social, probably worse until I graduated. Storage, very good because I had put a face to the name. I ended up actually putting my face on the box like a lawyer on the side of a park bench. So that's kind of how it all started. Had 64 customers year one, $18,000 in revenue. Said, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I've kind of just grown, added new campuses and expanded over the last 8 years.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about, like, for those that didn't quite grasp it, what exactly does Storage Scholars do?
Yeah, so I'll use Wake Forest as an example. Wake Forest is a school in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Actually, Winston-Salem was one of the wealthiest cities in America back during like the tobacco era, like Winston cigarettes and Salem cigarettes. Um, and so basically for students that live on average about 4 hours or longer away from campus, or a flight or an international student, we supply boxes, tape, bubble wrap, anything they need to pack up their stuff at the end of the semester. We give it out to them in the spring. They pack up their stuff. And then a lot of campuses, they actually snap a couple of photos of the items they're looking to store, box one, box two, headboard, plastic bin, whatever they need. And then they lock it in the room and go home. And then we come in with a team of students that we've been hiring and working with throughout the entire semester. The day after campus closes, move everything out, put it in storage for the summer, maybe ship an item or two home, and then have everything ready and waiting, pre-delivered in their new room when they return back to campus the following semester. If they live off campus, same thing. They just get put on a live queue, similar to that of like an Amazon or a DoorDash experience. Hey, I'm moving out on this date. Hey, we'll meet you at your door at this time. And they kind of say, okay, this is our average pace for the day. We'll be there at 1:42 to 1:55 kind of thing.
Very cool. That provides a tremendous amount of clarity. So I appreciate you kind of going through that process. So to just continue to set the stage. I always like to set the stage for viewers. As we were talking a little bit offline, we've had the opportunity to chat with so many different businesses that are all at different phases in their growth cycle, different types of fields, all that kind of stuff. So I like to just set the stage for kind of as we go in, help navigate through some of the questions, that sort of thing. So you talked about kind of starting the business and what that looked like, still in school. Through that process, or even up through kind of where you're at today, what does that structure look like in terms of like business partners? Is it just you? Are you the sole founder of this thing? Has it grown from there? Have you had to take outside investment, anything else like that? Just to kind of give that just general context of, we're in Austin. There's so many different variations of how a startup business looks over its life cycle.
For sure. Yeah. So full story is that I actually originally started this with the Ethiopian friend that I talked about. His name was Hubatu Shimelash. He's from the Samoan Mountains in Ethiopia. Before we made any money, realized, hey, like this is not going to be a 50-50 business. He was an international student, legally couldn't run a business. Bank account was under my name, like liability. Great, unbelievable person. Just wasn't going to be the long-term partner. So it was actually called Wake Storage at the time. Wake Forest, Wake Storage. I thought, hey, maybe people will think we're affiliated with the school. That's exactly what they did. So, following year, my sophomore year, I changed the name to Storage Scholars. But before that, I got a cease and desist letter, got called in with the head of the legal counsel, head of housing, head of residence life, and someone else. 18-year-old kid, hey kid, cute business, shut it down, and I'm like, what are you talking about? They go, Wake Storage, like you can't be using our names, trademark. I go, what do you mean? And they would search it and it would come up with Storage Scholars. And through that interaction with like the head decision makers on campus, in which I never would have been able to get a call or an in-person meeting with all of them in the same room because, hey, I want to bring Mark, I want to offer my services at your campus. But because I had the opportunity to speak with them face to face, I sold them the idea. And about 18 months later, we had like our first signed official partnership and contract, which was awesome. So changed the name to Storage Scholars, and then I expanded to different universities. And that was my sophomore year. And at the end of my sophomore year, I was actually going to go abroad to New Zealand for like a study abroad. So I needed somebody to basically be like the manager of our home campus, Wake, when I left Wake Forest. So talked to who's a year younger than me. He was working 20 hours a week as an intramural referee, getting screamed at by seniors playing flag football, making $7.25 an hour as a biochemistry major from Massachusetts. Hopes of being a doctor, was going to have $100,000 in debt. His name was Matt Gromberg. He lives here in Austin now with me. He ended up coming on board. I worked with tons of friends and tons of college students over the past 8 years. He was the only one that really saw the vision of like, okay, you're going to pay me X amount per hour, per student, commission, whatever, but I want to be a part of this, right? So he went full steam ahead. He actually ended up graduating a semester early, no longer pursuing a degree in medicine, coming and moving boxes full time with me. So he's my co-founder, and we then bootstrapped the entire business. We were profitable since year one. In 2020, applied on Shark Tank. Actually got through to a couple rounds. Pandemic hit, everything shut down. Zero Dark 30. 2 years later, ended up actually applying again. So no one like reaches out to you. I mean, sometimes they do, but like you have to apply, you have to fill out multiple 100 pages of applications, interviews, videos, but ended up going on the show, season 14, episode 4. But last year, got an offer from every shark besides Lori, and then ended up actually taking a deal with Mark Cuban for $250,000 for 10%. Mark's an incredible partner. Definitely, we've used the money and it allowed us to actually grow a bit quicker. But I don't think we necessarily, quote unquote, like needed the money. We just kind of wanted to work with him. So in my mind, we've still kind of bootstrapped it, but we did take 250,000. So the cap table is us three right now.
Very cool. I love kind of the narrative of that and kind of how you went through everything and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And kind of the next phase of questioning I always like to get through at this point. You've grown the business a little bit. What does your role in the business look like today? So I introduced you as founder and CEO. What does that look like? Like how many different hats or kind of roles do you have to play in the business today?
Yeah, it's way bigger than me now. I mean, we have 21 full-time US based, a ton overseas. We'll have over 2,000 people on payroll this spring, which like it isn't cool, doesn't sound cool. Like it's a lot of people and a lot of people mouths to feed and stuff. Um, but of course it's cool, but I mean, it's just like it's a lot of work. So through that though, it's seasonal, right? So our business, it used to be we'd move in and move out a week out of the year. And it's like, what do you do the rest of the year? I'm like, I'm a student, But now, because we're expanded to so many campuses across the country, a move out on one campus might be mid-April and another campus might be the end of June. And then you're moving throughout the entire summer. Then you're moving in all throughout August and September. Then you're doing stuff in December and January. So we are operationally active probably 65 to 70% of the year. And my role changes, but it's mostly B2B sales. So making partnerships and relationships with schools and school administrators and going to conferences, a lot of B2C sales, so direct to students. A lot of the real customers are the parents. So trying to find a way to circumnavigate the students to get to the parents as well. And just overall kind of service, like really more as like the CMO. Ideally looking to step out of that role pretty quickly, in coming to this kind of next year. But those are the main roles I wear right now. And then when we get into the operation, I do a lot of the partnerships with any sort of logistics companies or shipping warehouses and FedEx, and dive really deep into just like being a firefighter and making shit happen when the end of the year comes.
Oh man, that's so awesome. So with kind of that, a little bit of the CMO hat and having to get out there and you mentioned having, a little bit of B2B, a little bit of B2C, kind of having to navigate through kind of who decision makers might be, that sort of thing. How do you get the word out about what y'all do? How, when it comes to kind of the two different markets from the business to business side and, direct to the consumer side, what have you found to be successful? Is it still, handing out flyers and just walking door to door, or is it come a little bit further than that? And there's a few other strategies that are now effective.
Yeah, I could talk to you for probably 4 hours about every granular thing that we do, genuinely, because if we just you just got to do it all, you know. Um, so starting at the top, B2B, right? And whether it's cold calling, cold emailing, cold LinkedIn DMing, right? Or then once you have a partnership, having those people then do a warm intro via email or in person, right? Just to create the relationship or start the relationship, and then kind of fostering that as we go to probably 10 to 12 regional and national conferences a year. COI, CHO, these are like organizations that are involving around residence life and housing officers in the US. So we go meet there, we have a booth, we throw happy hours, we, kiss babies or whatever you call it, right? So we were able to kind of develop a lot of relationships in person with people there. We get a lot of like in-person referrals and stuff. So that's like B2B side. Very rarely are they inbound, right? And that'd be really cool. But very rarely does somebody like reach out to us and like, hey, we heard about you, like we want to partner with you, let's do it. And that sales cycle is on average more like 12 to 18 months. Then B2C, right? Once we have that relationship with the school, what we're looking to do, like kind of the golden ticket is that they'll actually put us on the website. That way students and families can inbound and they'll say, hey, use storage scholars. They'll oftentimes send out like email blasts to students, to families, a parent newsletter, a parent Facebook group. Sometimes we'll send them flyers, they'll put them under all the different doors. So they help us a lot. And then at some schools, either they just don't like really want to help with that kind of stuff, or they're just not really looking for a partnership. It's more of like a laissez-faire, hey, we're X school, like we don't want to be in a relationship with a student storage vendor. Like students can hire whoever they want, similar to like a DoorDash or, like an Uber, like hire whoever you want. So in that scenario, yeah, we do hire like paid interns in every campus. So and brand ambassadors. So they're doing like as gritty as chalking on the sidewalk and like putting flyers under people's doors, all the way up to like making individual like campus Instagram and TikTok pages, and then us pushing out paid ads on all the different social platforms. And I mean, we kind of do everything. We've even tried some like snail mail this year, like literally sending physical mail to some like past customers and stuff too. So the more grassroots stuff is not as scalable. And oftentimes, really realistically, the juice is not worth the squeeze. If you try to get 200 students to like chalk on their sidewalk, like maybe 20 of them are actually going to do it. And sometimes it hits and it hits really well. Or out of those 20, then 10 of them, a school says, hey, you chalked like in front of the president's office. Like, please don't do that. So we've kind of like shied away just because the whole ask for forgiveness before permission works when you're like an 18-year-old, maybe even up to like a 25-year-old. But now, we've been in business for 8 years and people are like, okay, like, please, don't do that. So everything under the sun.
Oh man, so I mean, lots of different. You've got so much volume. You've got so many different kind of strategies, things like that that you're leveraging from a marketing kind of awareness side of things. How do you manage it all? How do you track and know that like these ones are hitting, these ones are working. We've got a return on it, whether it's on time or any dollar amount that's kind of being invested.
Yeah.
And like here's the ones that we've tested, and maybe we tried the snail mail and it just didn't hit. Now we know we're not going to do it again. How do you manage that process of knowing what's working and what's not?
Candidly, we didn't really used to, and it was kind of like we have 6 weeks, like let's just do it all, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to like print out some flyers and like chalk on the sidewalk, and those things don't really cost money, relatively to like Facebook ads, which you might have $100, $200 cost per acquisition. So we started with just like a bunch of the grassroots stuff. Now, as of like literally a couple of weeks ago, we have UTMs, like tracking metrics, set up on any QR code or individual ambassador link or anything like that. So we can say, okay, through our Google Analytics dashboard, what is actually working? Just because we are on so many different campuses with so many different people and Facebook groups that it was like just more effort to try to track it effectively. It was like, okay, let's just do it all and see what happens. And tracking would be how many signups did we actually get on that campus? But yeah, now we do track it. We track it more officially, which is like, um, you know, UTMs is really what it is.
Very cool. I love it. Such an important piece is for many of those doing marketing out there and continue to grow and trying to figure out like what's working so that they're not wasting money. It's always fun to kind of hear how a business like yours has grown so much and kind of some of the things that y'all have done. So appreciate you kind of going through that. How about lessons? Like if you look back at this 7-8 year journey, are there like one or two lessons that stand out in your mind? I'm sure there's probably been lots over the years, as I've seen with many entrepreneurs, including myself included. But is there one or two kind of moments or just lessons that stand out in your mind? Like once I learned this one, we definitely grew a little bit more. I just really had to get through this piece before kind of moving to that next step.
Yeah, I could take that in so many different directions. I think the path that I'll take it would be so twofold. Number one is the best time to start a business is now, and now is for the people that I usually talk to is in college, right? When you have a roof over your head, you have a meal plan, you probably don't have a family to support, like you're not paying for health insurance, you're under 26, and you have kind of like an entrepreneurial playground. By that, I mean, I won 4 times as many scholarships as a college student than I did as a high school student. Because a high school student, you're like, hey, I went on a mission trip to Nicaragua. I was on the high school soccer team, and these are my grades. It's like kind of hard to stand out. But in college, like I had a real tangible thing that I built to kind of tell a story about. And as thus, continued to apply for scholarships and really made more money as a college student through scholarships than I did actually in profit through storage scholars to pay for school, if that makes sense. So do it now. And also at the same time too, you have professors, you have like a lot of your target customers and cheap labor force or students and people around you. And the one thing that gets super slept on is that your .edu email, I like to say, is lethal, right? Because if you are I'll give you a perfect example. We had a competitor in the space. He was out of college. I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, I'm starting this moving company. Like, can you give me some advice? He's like, sure. Da, 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 da. Right. Now we're competitors. If I reached out for my business email, asked to basically information of how to compete with him in the marketplace, like they never would have responded, right? So as a college student, you're so much more unassuming, and people, especially entrepreneurs too, and business people, like they see themselves in younger generation, they want to help out. But once you're like a competitor, like they're not going to give you the keys to the castle. So as a college student, you could literally reach out and say, I have this project, like, can you give me the data on your customers? And be like, sure, like I'm running a project, sounds cool. And it works all the time because people do it to me. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, I'll help you out. So that would be one thing. And then so start it now. And I think that's really the main takeaway, whether you're in college, whether you're in high school, whether you're post grad, like there's no better time than now. But secondarily would be that no matter what stage you are at in life, in business, accolades, investors, business partners, no one's going to do the work for you.
Hmm.
Like you still have to do the work yourself. And I'll give you an example that maybe might hit for the audience. Like we went on Shark Tank. We got to deal with Mark Cuban, one of the most like well-recognized investors and business people like on the planet. And he's an incredible partner, but like he has 200 investments. He's got, daughters, and he's not going to start like making cold calls for us to get us into schools. And like when we have an issue and we need a lawyer, he's not gonna be like, here's my lawyer, go use him. Like have fun. He's great, right? He's incredible, but at the end of the day, you still have to pick up the phone. You still have to go move the boxes when shit hits the fan. So I think a lot of people assume that just after a certain stage, like things just like systems and people kind of figure it all out. But like you are those systems, you are those people. So just be prepared. That's going to be hard work, and it's going to continue to be hard work.
Oh, I love that so much. So as we start to kind of move into a little bit of a wrap up here, before I move us to the rapid fire questions, I'm super curious. Where does everything go from here? When you kind of cast the vision for the next 3 to 5 years, what do you see the business doing? Like how does it grow? What's it look like? And then how does your role shift and change? I know you mentioned, hopefully removing the CMO hat and things like that. So
Right.
when you cast that vision, what does the next 3 to 5 years look like?
Yeah. So crazy to even hear this come out of my mouth, but I think in the next 1, maybe 2 years, we'll reach market saturation in the US. Like we've grown 100% year over year. We'll be on 140 campuses across the country. Realistically, there's probably a TAM of 250, maybe 300, like really solid schools for us. And a metric would be like high density of out-of-state international students, and more importantly, people that live on campus. Because if you live off campus, your house lease might be 12 months, so you don't need a place to store your stuff. You can just leave it in your basement. But when you live on campus, you're forced to leave, and thus that's kind of when our service comes in. So the goal, and I think very quickly will become kind of the dominant player in name in the college student storage space in the nation, in the next 1 to 2 years. But then from there, it's okay. We've been really focused on our one core product and our one core business, not getting that kind of shiny object syndrome of being like, we have all this time, let's start a new business. Like we did that in college, believe me, but like we've been pretty focused the last 2 years. But then from there, kind of finding a way, and we're testing it out right now, of kind of capturing the post-grad opportunity. So we help students move to college throughout their 4 years, and we've kind of let it just die off after that. But we have all of the people's contact information, a lot of the brand loyalty and trust. So, hey, how can we help them move from their senior year house in North Carolina to their first apartment in New York City, and then follow them throughout their life cycle of the rest of their moving life and their parents and that kind of thing too. So I could see it very easily kind of turning into either that arena of just growing at the moving division, kind of just different age groups, or really niching onto college campuses and then bringing in different companies and different service offerings. And per example, right, like if we're going to already go into these rooms, drop off boxes, why can't we drop off mini fridges and then stock those mini fridges with maybe a beverage? I'm making it up, but like something along those lines of just offering different services to the same type of customer. Where does my role go? I think it's finding the answer to that question, and then executing on it, right? And we have these amazing people in place now that I hope will be, mature enough and seasoned enough to handle the student storage side of it, and then going off and continuing to kind of grow what the next big idea and vision is.
Amazing. Absolutely love it. Super excited to see that success and that continue to grow for your businesses as these next couple years unfold. So rapid fire questions before we kind of jump into kind of the official, close to this conversation here. The first one is really, as you look at your journey, what would you say is kind of your key to success? Traits, routines, just things that you do that just kind of help you become successful on a consistent basis. What does
Yeah.
that look like for you?
My formula is pretty simple. I realize, and I say this out loud to people now, of like a clear headspace, a good mind, like good energy is just sweating every day. So for me, if I don't get outside, see the sunlight, move my body, whether that's running a mile, doing 100 push-ups, whatever, my life starts to crumble. So that's like internally what I need. But I think the secret that maybe not secret, but like what stands out for me versus some other people is it's just consistency, right? I think it's if you wake up every single day and work even just a standard 40-hour a week, selling blue t-shirts, right, for 5 years, I think it'd be unreasonable for you not to be successful at that, right? So it's cool to say, hey, now, you guys are going to do $10 million in sales, you're 26, that's amazing, but we're almost a decade in, right? Like it was a slow grind, and kind of hard work and just time under tension compounds. So the cliche is, wake up every day and get 1% better. But I think it's just like we woke up every day and just worked and like did it again the next day and just did it again the next day and just did it again the next day. And as a result, deals start to open up and opportunities start to come your way. So
Amazing. How about advice? If you could give just one piece of advice for other entrepreneurs, leaving this conversation today, what would you want to leave them with?
don't take it personal. I think my business partner and I were yin and yang, and sometimes someone does need to kind of get like angry in the room and like be the bad cop and be like, I'm pissed, like this sucks, right? But having the superpower to be able to understand that yes, it is your business, it is your face, it is your baby, but like it's not personal, right? If a mom is yelling at us saying that we're 3 hours late for her daughter's pickup and she's fuming and like this is ridiculous and we're gonna get sued, and it's like, okay, great. Like, let's find a solution for her and let's compensate her, whatever needs to be, whatever way needs to be compensated. But they're not coming after you personally, right? So kind of finding a way to separate yourself from your business as your identity a little bit, to have some headspace at the beginning, end of the day, to like deep breath, life's gonna be fine. Like no one's dying. We're just moving boxes, you know, or whatever you do. I mean, at the exception if you are literally saving lives, most people are not like interacting with people that are life or death situations. So
And it's such a good piece of advice that, and I'm totally aligned with it because there's a few sayings that we've used over the years, which is essentially you are not your business. It just split those two things out. It isn't personal, right? That's I absolutely love that. Book recommendations. If you could give just one recommendation out there, or maybe two if you've got a couple on the top of your head, but anything that you're reading currently, have read most recently, listened to, anything like that. If you're not a big physical reader, but any
yeah.
recommendations you give to the audience.
Easy. I'll give you two quick ones. If you are like when I read this when I was abroad on a beach in New Zealand to get excited about entrepreneurship, I read the 4 Hour Work Week just to like, this is cool. Like I can get, and honestly, now we have a ton of virtual assistants overseas. It kind of gives you the agency to realize that there's a global marketplace out there. And it gives you the ability to kind of scale with lower cost labor when you don't have the money to do, hiring people locally. And also you can then work 24 hours a day. You can have people that work at midnight and people that work at 2 o'clock in the morning, people that work at 8 a.m. So cool book, very entertaining. Tim Ferriss is the beast. Most impactful book on my like business career and life career has actually probably been Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, chief hostage negotiator for the FBI. I really read things multiple times. I've probably read that book 3 times. Just super applicable. Like you want to take notes in a book about negotiation. And I've used it in life for business. I've used it in life. We don't get into it, but literally for like a hostage negotiation, like in a foreign country that involved myself. And at the same time too, super entertaining. Every single chapter starts off with like we're in Bronx, New York. It's a heist, it's a shootout situation. Like, what do we do? And it's like he's talking about his real world experiences. So Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, great book.
Those are both great recommendations.
Thanks.
All right, one more rapid fire question. This one's just kind of fun. If you could choose just one area in your business, and that's the key. You only get to choose one. That's what makes this fun. And you could take a little bit of magic dust and just sprinkle it all over that one spot in your business. Wake up tomorrow, it's like 10 times better than it is today. Where would you currently choose to put that magic dust?
Jeez. Well, if you start at top of funnel, like if a university loves us, like they're diehard storage scholars, our life is so easy. We get to offer the best possible service. They market for us, like they recommend us to other schools, they promote us. It's amazing. Our SEO increases because they're on really high domain authority websites. So if every single pitch that we got on with the school resulted in a close and a sale within like 24 hours, that would be the most ridiculous thing ever. And our business would explode. So I would say
Ooh, that's it. That is a really good place to put it.
that.
So for those that are, super fascinated, want to continue to follow the journey, maybe want to connect and know some folks that should be giving you all a call, where can we advise them to go for a little bit more information?
Yeah, so all of our socials for the business is just at Storage Scholars, Instagram, TikTok. Email is info@storagescholars.com. For me personally, Sam J Chason. Chason is CHASON on Instagram, or you can email me, sam@storagescholars.com. Check us out.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, I will make sure to put all of that in the video description below. So once we wrap up here, those that are watching this, make sure you go click the links, check it all out, send a DM, say, hey, saw you on the business spotlight. Great conversation. Excited to connect, all that kind of stuff. But Sam, as we bring this entire thing to a close, I'd like to end on one specific question, which is simply, what is most inspiring to you today?
So I was actually thinking about this in the shower this morning, not this question, but like where my headspace has been at. I think it's always like, oh, the $1 million question, right? And now that's my brain could only conceptualize up to maybe like when I was a college student, what if this business becomes $10 million? Oh my gosh, right? Like 10 million, that's crazy. Now the next kind of phase is like 100 million, and that's a monetary number. But being in Austin, Texas, surrounded by so many incredibly talented, successful people, I'm inspired by the people that do it at the highest level, at the highest stage, and also have an incredible balance throughout the rest of their life, right? Like, what are those both obvious traits and more subtle traits that those people that are running $200 million a year ARR companies are doing that aren't just like addicted to their phone and like work 24/7, but they also have a family, they also have a social life, they also are fit, they also have a like great spiritual energy about them. So that is inspiring to me when I see people that, in my perspective, kind of like have it all together in that sense.
That is really cool, and definitely in a really good market to be around some folks
Yeah,
that maybe have experienced some of that, right?
that's awesome.
Um, well, Sam, I just want to say thank you again for taking the time. This has been an absolute pleasure, going through, learning your journey, all of the amazing things that you've been kind of growing through over the last number of years of building the business. But I appreciate you being here and sharing the story today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.